So last class we saw verses 27 and 28. Each one describes who's a Ajnani and a Jnani. So in verse 27, Krishna described a person who is completely immersed in the self, who thinks he is the body-mind complex, who identifies only with the body-mind complex. He is a Ajnani because he is not aware that he is something higher than these. So he is not aware of his higher self. He is only caught in the body-mind complex and performs all his actions thinking that he is the body-mind complex. And the 28th verse, Krishna talks about the Jnani who identifies himself with the higher self, because he knows he is not the body-mind complex. So he identifies himself with the higher self, and he continues to live in the body-mind complex, but he is not controlled by that. So all his actions are just to take care of the body-mind complex, but he revels in the knowledge of the self. So this is the basic difference between a Jnani and a Ajnani. Now Krishna, in the next verse, he is going to talk about, or he is cautioning the Jnani how he should deal with the Ajnani. So let us read verse number 29. Prakrite guna sammudha sajjante guna karmasu tran kritsna vido mandan kritsna vinna vichalayet. So again he is repeating in the first part of the verse the definition of a Ajnani. So the one who is immersed in the body-mind complex, who thinks he is the body-mind complex, continues to perform actions, and his goal is to attain benefits for the actions, the results that accrue out of those actions. He is bound by the results of those actions. So he is completely immersed in doing actions which he thinks are going to give him benefits. So purely for the benefit of the action he is performing. So he continues to do that. Now Krishna is cautioning the Jnani. He says, don't disturb people who are immersed in the action oriented people who think that actions will bring them results. So he says, don't disturb them. Let them continue doing their actions as long as those actions are within dharma. If somebody is doing actions which are not in tune with dharma, definitely he has to caution them. But otherwise, Jnani may think, I have attained Jnanam, so everybody should be able to do that. Like some people may think, like probably if you take somebody like a Tendulkar or something, he may think it is so easy for him. So if it is so easy, it should be easy for everybody also. So suppose he sees somebody playing and goes and tells, no, you can play like this, you can play like that. But if that child or whoever is learning is not yet with the basics he is not very clear, if he tells him to play in different ways, naturally that boy will get confused, and ultimately neither he will be able to play cricket nor he will be able to achieve anything. So similarly, if a jnani thinks, okay, I have attained jnanam, now let me tell others, why do you waste your time doing karma? Ultimately, karma is not going to lead you anywhere. So don't do karma. If the jnani says that, it will be disaster for that person and also for the society. Because if somebody is not yet ready and takes sannyasa, it will be a disaster, which we can see in the society. There are many people who out of various reasons take to sannyasa out of frustration, out of so many other factors, which ultimately they themselves will regret, and it is not good for the society also, because once you take sannyasa, people respect you. They assume that you have knowledge. They assume that you are a person of wisdom. But if you have taken it out of reasons other than purely for the sake of attaining knowledge, then neither you will progress nor the people will benefit anything from it. So it is best for the jnani to allow the person who is immersed in activities for his own benefit, even if they are not beneficial to others, as long as he is not breaking any dharma, let him continue. Because that person has to gain that maturity. So that is why the Shastras also prescribe, they made the 4 ashramas, brahmacharya, then the dampatyam, then ultimately leading to sannyasa. So that is the process one has to go through. Like you take a fruit, when it is raw, the skin is very tight and sticking to the fruit. Even if you try to peel it, it will not come off. So nature has made it like that. So once the fruit ripens, automatically the skin will come off easily and you can eat the fruit. So similarly, the Dampatya ashram is meant to, it is like the skin. It is meant to ripen the person. So you cannot run away from your brahmacharya ashram straight to vanaprastha or to sannyasa, because only in Dampatya ashram you mature. So when you go through all the struggles, it is meant to make you a mature person. So that is why the jnani should not disturb the activities of a ajnani. Allow him to do his activities, but they can suggest asking them to do karma yoga instead of doing actions for themselves. Slowly they encourage them to do karma yoga, where you surrender the action, the fruits of the action, to the Lord. So which ultimately will lead to maturity, and once the person becomes mature, automatically like the skin peeling off, the person gets ready and the skin drops by itself. So that is how a person has to mature. So you cannot bypass. So it is very important that a jnani should not encourage a person who is not yet mature to take up something like a sannyasa. Because once somebody takes sannyasa, they should be mature, they should have earned that maturity. Maybe in this life, or maybe they have gained it in their earlier life. That is why some people, they take to sannyasa in early stage of life, because probably they have gone through all the maturing part in their previous lives. So Krishna is just warning the jnani not to disturb the ajnani, allow him to continue his work without disturbing him, only guiding him where required. Because only when the person is mature, then only he will be ready for the jnana. So karma yoga will give you maturity, and then jnana yoga will give you the ultimate goal of moksha. So this is what Krishna is trying to convey in this verse. Now let us move on to the 30th verse. Mai sarvani karmani sannyasyaadhyatma chetasa nirashirni nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Now this is a very important verse which Krishna is giving a step by step to karma yoga. So if somebody wants to gain moksha, first step is to realize your goal. First step to understand your goal. We should say first step is to understand the goal. Because the Shastras have prescribed the goal. Dharmartha Kama Moksha. So the goal is specified clearly in the Shastras, but unfortunately all of us who are ajnanis, we only focus on the first three goals, Dharmartha Kama, and we lose sight of the real goal, which is moksha. So the first step is to understand the ultimate goal as moksha, and then keeping that goal in mind, follow the other three. So it is not that you remove the other three and only follow moksha. That is not possible. So you keep moksha as the primary goal and dharmartha kama as the secondary goal. So the first step towards moksha is to identify the goal very clearly, because unless the goal is clear, there is no point in moving on to the next step. If we are always caught in if we prioritize dharmartha kama, then the moksha, people will say, okay, that will come later in life. Let me now enjoy dharmartha kama, and when I am ready, if at all I am ready, when after I retire or whenever I feel I should gain that time I will work for moksha, which is difficult. We cannot say no, that is not possible at all, but highly improbable, because a person whose goal is not clear in his early stages, as he grows older, it will become more difficult for him to follow or attain that goal. So if you are very clear about the goal, if you prioritize moksha as the goal and then follow the other goals, then your life will be streamlined. So the first step, he says, is to attain or accept the goal. So what he says is, renouncing all actions unto me with a mind that is discriminating, devoid of expectations with reference to the future and any sense of mindness, without any anger or frustration whatsoever, fight. So this is what Krishna is telling. So basically, he has given 5 conditions for Karma Yoga. Because if we understand this, it becomes very clear how to go about our life. Because he has made it very simple. So once you are very clear about, so the first step, the first condition is prioritize your goal. And that goal can be only moksha. Because the Shastras, if you believe in the Shastras, then there is no confusion about this goal. If one says, I don't believe in the Shastras, then it is up to that person. It is left to him how he goes about it. But if you accept the Shastras, then the goal is specified in the Shastras, moksha, dharmartha kama moksha, and moksha is the primary goal. All the others are secondary goals. So if you make moksha as your primary goal, then you are in the right path. Now, having set that goal, now how to go about it? That also Krishna is explaining. The second condition is, to reach that goal, you have to have a pure mind. The more your mind is pure, the more you are likely to reach that goal, because only a pure mind, the ultimate knowledge will be able to get entrenched. Only in a pure mind that knowledge will be firmly entrenched. So first, having set the goal, the next step is to purify the mind. Now how do you purify the mind? Allow God to do it, because only He can purify the mind. So how do you do it? Just surrender all your actions to God. Not easy to do, but that is the only way. There is no other way you can purify the mind. So Ishwararpana Buddhi. So surrender everything to God. All your actions to God. So do every action as if it's an offering to God. If you have that mindset, then the purification process will start. How long will it take? Nobody can say. Because each individual, depending on how your mind is and how much you have followed that principle of offering to the Lord, the time frame is immaterial. Just go with that attitude. It will automatically, God will take care of the purification process. So this is so having identified, the second step is to you can hear, no? So second step is to have the Ishwararpana Buddhi, or surrendering or doing every activity as a offering to the Lord. The third condition is, whatever results accrue out of this, accept them as prasada from the So now, having surrendered or having started doing karma as an offering to the Lord, you accept the results as a prasada from the Lord. So it follows naturally. So once you do that, automatically whatever results come, you accept them as a prasada from the Lord. Because we don't question whatever prasadam we get, we accept it and take it. So third important point is, you should accept the results. So don't say, okay, I expected more than this, I did all this, so I should have got more. The Lord knows, the natural laws know what you deserve. So you get what you deserve. you may think you deserve more or less, but the rule is same for everybody. The natural laws know, they take into account all the things that you do, and then only they give you the karma phala. So, having surrendered the action to the Lord, you accept whatever comes as prasada. So the third condition is accept the results of your action as a prasada from the Lord. Then the fourth one is whatever action you do, all the results that come, don't claim credit for all of those. Because you may feel that I have done this, I have done that, but ultimately you will realize that almost 90% of whatever you do is not because of you. There are so many factors involved which we don't take into account. We only blow our trumpet. We think that we have done everything, though we might have done only 10% of what is the total. 90% has come because that is how so many factors work out in our favor. So that humility is very important. Accepting that whatever results have come, I am partly responsible. I can take a little credit, but accept that it is nature's whatever credit has to go to the right source. You can credit it to the God, or you can credit it to nature, whatever way you want to take it. But don't claim credit for whatever results that, especially people tend to take credit whenever the results are very positive. And if the results don't turn out, they blame everybody else except themselves. So this is the fourth condition. And the fifth condition is equanimity. So if you have the first four, you're bound to have the fifth one also. Equanimity is treating both happiness and sorrow alike. So you don't jump when you are happy, and you don't collapse when you are not happy. So, because there is a doer and there is an enjoyer. So when you do karma, there is stress, because you are worried about the result. So any karma done with the result in mind, which should be favorable to the doer, there is always stress. So any job that we do is bound to create stress unless we enjoy that job. So either we have to enjoy what we do, or take a job which we enjoy. Either way, we have to ensure that we enjoy, otherwise it is bound to create stress. And the results also, if the results are not as per what we thought, again it leads to stress. So the doer and the enjoyer both are under stress. So always these two factors are creating continuous stress. But if you follow the first four, you do every activity as an offering to God, you accept the results that come as a prasada from God, and you don't take credit for whatever you get. So the chances of you attaining equanimity is high. So ultimately, equanimity is very important condition for karma yoga. So all these 5 That is, the first is to be very clear about the goal. Prioritize moksha as the goal, the primary goal, and dharmartha kama as the secondary goal. So that is the first step. Second step, do all your actions as an offering to the Lord, so that you can purify your mind through His help, because only He can purify the mind. Because when you say purification of the mind, it is the ultimate purification which will clear any kind of stress or whatever in the mind, so that the mind is ready for knowledge. Only a pure mind can retain that knowledge. Otherwise, the mind is... So all that we study now, unless the mind is pure, this knowledge will not help us when we need it. So the process of purification has to continue. The more the mind becomes pure, the more the knowledge will get embedded in our mind. And it will be useful when you need it. Because ultimately, any knowledge is worth only if it is useful when you need it. When you write the exam, all that you have studied is useful only if you are able to remember it during those 3 hours or whatever time we write the exam. Otherwise, after you come out, you say, I knew everything I knew, but at that time I could not remember. So that knowledge is useless. So same thing. So there we can know when we were studying also, when you study, when the mind is clear, even if it is for half an hour, that knowledge you will be able to reproduce during the exams. But if you study with lot of disturbance around and your mind is not very clear, you will struggle to recollect whatever you have studied. So same thing, the more the mind is pure, the more you will be able to retain that knowledge, and that knowledge will be of use to you when you need it most. So offer to the Lord. Then the third step is accept the results as a prasada from the Lord. So naturally, when you do with that attitude, you will also be ready to accept the results as an offering, as a prasada from the Lord. And then practice humility. Humility should not be practiced. Humility should be our second nature. Because if you are trying to practice humility, that means you are not humble. So it should happen on its own. So humility should be your part of your nature. So once you have the first three, automatically you don't take credit. You accept that it was all happening because of the grace of the Lord. And whatever little I could contribute, I have done that. So mostly it's happening because of God's grace. And then when you have all these three, all these four, automatically your mind will attain that equanimity. And only when the mind is having that equanimity, the mind is ready for knowledge. Because all these things are not going to give moksha. So that also we need to understand. These are all tools to... Krishna has given the conditions under which your mind is ready for knowledge. And the more the mind is ready, the knowledge will happen just like that. Because knowledge of the self is already there. Only thing, it is covered with so many things that we are not able to see that. We don't see our true nature. So when the more the mind gets pure, automatically all the shields are removed and you can see your true nature. So this is what... So for all of us, the first step is to... For Karma Yoga is follow these 5 conditions which Krishna has laid down. There are no other methods. If we have to find our own method, we can do that. But when it comes from the Lord Himself, I don't think there can be any better condition. So He doesn't say this is the only condition. If you want, you can try. But if we understand this then we'll know that there's nothing else we can do. So just follow these 5 conditions for Karma Yoga. Now let us read the next verse. Verse number 31. Ye me matamidam nityam anuttishtanti manavaha shraddhavanto nasuyanto mucchante tepi karmabhihi. Now here Krishna is going to talk about the ones who follow this. So what is the advantage? So the ones who follow this, he says, those people who constantly follow this teaching of mine, full of faith, without finding fault with the teaching or the teacher, they too are freed from the hold of the karma phalas. So first is, you should have Shraddha. So you should have, it is loosely translated as faith in English, but Shraddha is something more deeper. So when you approach something, you approach with Shraddha. Once you understand, you can always ask questions. But if you start with a thing, okay, is this going to help me? If I study Gita, am I going to get moksha? So you go with that attitude, I am studying Bhagavad Gita to gain moksha. I believe whatever Lord Krishna says is going to help me to gain moksha. And as we go, we may have doubts. We can always clarify those doubts. But if you think, okay, maybe I don't know whether Krishna is right or wrong, I may follow if I follow, whether I'll get it or not. If we go with that attitude, definitely we will not progress. So first is Shraddha. Then you should not find fault with the teaching and the teacher. Because if you are always like, for a proofreader, his job is to find fault. Because he has to be very, very sharp to find out the faults. But that is his profession. But here, we should not look at finding faults. First of all, if we have Shraddha, then we should not find fault. Because if you feel that whatever Lord is saying there is defect, then there is something wrong. So first you should have this thing that there cannot be a defect. So even if you find something is not okay, you find there is some defect, it is more due to your misunderstanding than because there is a defect. Because our understanding is not clear, that is why we think it's a defect. And even if there is a defect, out of some 1,000 things, if you find even just one is defective, first understand the 999, then you will find that one is also not defective. So Krishna says, whoever follows these 5 conditions that I do, definitely they will be in the right path. If they don't criticize me, they don't find fault with whatever I say, if they follow that, full of faith, so definitely their minds will be cleared, and once their mind is clear, knowledge will happen. So here he doesn't add, we have to add that if you follow this, you will have a clear mind which will help you to gain that knowledge and gain moksha. So Karma Yoga, let us be clear, is not the way to moksha by itself. But without Karma Yoga, your mind will not be ready for moksha. Once it is ready, definitely we have to gain that knowledge. Because without knowledge, because ultimately Only knowledge gives you liberation, not action. So karma yoga is only an attitude to purify the mind, which will help you to gain that knowledge, and that knowledge will give you liberation. And in the next verse which we will read, those who don't follow this, etve tadabhya suyanto nanutishtanti medmatam sarvajnana vimudhams tan viddhi nashtana chetasaha. So he gives those who don't follow this, whereas those who, being critical of this teaching without reason, do not follow my vision, who are deluded in all realms of knowledge and devoid of any discrimination, they are lost, or they are doomed spiritually. Because if you think I have the freedom to do anything, I can live the way I want to live, I can get up at any time, I can do whatever I want to at any time, I will follow my own rules, it is up to you. So he says the Shastras have laid down some conditions which are going to help you to cross this samsara sagara, as they call it. But if you feel you don't want to be bound by any conditions, you don't want to follow any rules and regulations, it is your choice. Live the way you want, but you will be doomed. There are a lot of people who will say, oh, this is not meant for this age. Bhagavad Gita was in the previous yuga, it was probably relevant only in those days. This is Kali Yuga, let us enjoy, let us do whatever we want, we'll get up, have bed coffee, and then decide whether I can again go back to sleep, then we'll go out, have a good time, enjoy. Nothing wrong, as long as you don't break any rules. But physically you may enjoy, or whatever you think you're enjoying, and after a certain age the same enjoyment will become a burden. So when you are young you feel okay, I can do whatever I want, but as you grow older you will realize that your body is not cooperating, your mind is not cooperating. At that time if you feel, oh, I should have studied Bhagavad Gita, it may be a little too late. So you may go through life, you may feel you are enjoying, you may feel you are having a good time, but ultimately you are doomed spiritually. So the choice is left to you. So either you follow Karma Yoga, even if you make mistakes, as long as you have faith, you believe in me, you don't criticize me, I will take care of you. But if you are finding mistakes, you want to live your own way, I cannot help you. So you go through life as you wanted, but spiritually you are doomed. You come back again and again, go through the same cycle of birth and death in different bodies depending on your karma. Go through the cycle until you reach until in some birth when you get a human body, because now you have it, you don't know when you're going to get it, because you don't know what your past karmas are. Once you have it, at that time again, when you get a chance, again there's no option, again the same conditions of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Those are the only things which are going to liberate you from this. So it is your choice. So that is what Krishna is conveying in the last two verses. Those who follow and those who don't follow, what is their future. So we will conclude with this.